unpacking a little bit, like creating the content, like analyzing the content, updating the content. I know I can speak from experience. One of our regulatory matrices, so not even building out the SOPs, the job age checklist, the training, and everything else that goes on top of that, depending on the state and of course the regulatory framework and how much regulations are in that state, would take us anywhere from 40 hours to 110 hours just to digest the regulations and put this into this matrix. Can you elaborate a little bit on like what your strategy is and maybe some of those best practices?
Yeah. I mean, one of the foundations of ProCana is that, if our team is doing this, it's economies of scale, right? To have somebody in your organization doing the work that we're doing and every company having somebody like us, it's just prohibitive. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But you take one team that's building this content and you spread it over, and all of a sudden it makes a lot more sense. So we have we follow the same process in every state, which we're continuing to hone it, but it's basically very similar to the process we began. So we go to the regulatory authorities. We have lawyers, law students, regulatory specialists researching whatever's current in a state. We look over the regs. Obviously, if it's just a medical state, it's half usually of the time it takes if it's medical and adult use. Yeah. We go through the regs, we upload the most current version, literally we block it. So we have some team members that basically take every word of the regulation and put them into blocks, and we code them so you can search it by title, by citation, and then our team builds out these plain English summaries. In the beginning, we were building them out for every part of the regulation, and it was very time consuming. And it became real clear that the sections that were just talking about the department, or what the department or the regulatory agency was going to do. So now we summarize those in a couple sentences. So we always want someone to be able to look on our summary and say, what is this block about in English? So they don't have to read through the legalese. But if it's an actionable item in the regulation that the licensee has to comply with, we turn it into a plain English. We clean up the formatting. We take out the shalls and but we don't interpret it. We don't give legal advice, despite the fact that, many people on our team are lawyers. We don't give legal advice. We just clean it up and sort of put it into layman's language. So everything starts with the block summary, and then we have and everything has, at least two, it's a draft review process. And we go through that as many times as it takes till we get it to the final process, the final product. But then we build out, if we can put the regulation in steps or true SOP format, we do that. Otherwise, we create policies, and it's all like the company will. And so I always imagine myself that I'm writing an application, and I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm looking at the regs, and these are all the policies and procedures that I need to start with at my company. And that's how we all approach all of it. So we look at the regulation and we build out policies and procedures depending on which is appropriate. And then audits. So literally, if you are in a full content state, you flip on ProCana, and literally you can say, is our security system in place? And you can pull up all the security audits. And literally, if you go through everyone, you will be in compliance. There's no doubt about it. It could be your inventory, your storage, or your delivery processes. So that's the base content. And then we see ourselves as sitting between our customers and the regulatory agencies. So that's the key updates that you talked about before. Whenever there's new legislation pending, or, they're looking for public comment on, proposed bills or new guidance documents. I mean, Ohio, Massachusetts, some of the states, some of the updates are not legislative. They basically say, this is how we're going to interpret this, right? And it's important. And that's how, but it's in a guidance document as opposed to, a legislative update. So we update those into a reference document section that's in ProCana. And then we send an announcement to everybody who it applies to that facility type in that state. So you only see the content that applies to you, so if you're just a manufacturer or processor, I don't mean just, but I mean, if that is your facility type, you don't need to get confused with the cultivation security requirements, or, and sometimes if you're not a lawyer or you don't see the whole big picture on how the regulations are structured in sections, in theory, if you're looking at them all, you could look at one regulation, think it applied to you, and in fact, it didn't, so that is another, we just feel like we know what applies to each facility type in each state, and that's what we deliver.
Yeah.